happened, I lost track of how many people we would just stop and pick up, getting off the bus stop, and there's bag limits. Now, I was Embark, and Nikki and that task force did a phenomenal job of trying to rally around that Embark, still running extra laps, which is incredible. But it was and remains definitely a factor. So if you think about, if I'm a single mom, yeah, I've got bag limits. I take 2.5 hour trip just to get there and back, plus my shopping time. By the time I get that stuff off the bus, and it was like July, if I've purchased anything that's perishable and I'm on foot from the bus stop to my house. So I lost track of how many folks we picked up from the bus stop, just where you live, let me take you home real quick, and just how much that meant. I mean, neighbors would cry just how much it meant to have a ride, because maybe they'd get home and their milk would still be good after all,
Incredible. So that's the landscape in roughly 2019. Store closes, hours to get to a grocery store. Lots of people would say, well, somebody should do something about that. And you all somehow said, well, maybe we should do something about that. So tell us about what the decision process was like to jump into the fray and solve this problem. And then what did you do about it?
Oh, man. So the decision-making process was we immediately following that store closure, there, of course, were a number of emergency food distributions that sprung up, and we were thrilled and happy, of course, to be one site that was helping oversee those food distributions. Now, if we quickly get out of the way for our community neighbors and leaders, and so we early on they were running all of those, and we were just supplying help and running water bottles out where it was needed. And I got a call from John Bob Simple over at Regional Food Bank at the time, and that there were some conversations around taking at that time it's about a 1,300 square foot metal storage building. It had just finally received siding, so there were actually walls inside, but that's what we're talking about. And using it as sort of a makeshift temporary food pantry. So that was sort of the conversation. So we gathered our community advisory team, neighbors, and the folks who have been running all these food distributions, and said, what do you think? We thought it was a great idea. Yeah, let's not do this in our parking lot. It's hot. And it was a unanimous no, which surprised us. And I think, speaks again to just the listening. And we will never get that perfectly right. We've blown it 100 times for every one time we've got it right. We're the opposite of your podcast, I guess. But in this sense, I guess it was a unanimous no. We don't want a pantry. There's pantries all over. Not that they don't serve some real purpose and need, but we want a grocery store with the dignity of purchasing power, just like anybody else wants. And we said, oh, I don't know if that's on the table.
Well, you had a farm, right?
That wasn't the option she was looking for.
You're like,
that was not. But I'll tell
not?
you, it married with, and your boys are interns at the farm, so you can speak to some of this. It married with some of our young leaders there who had been growing for a little while at that point in time and were ready to see that food desert designation be over with, who began really kind of dreaming, how would we go bigger?
Yeah, because you think about the farm, and the primary goal is education with the next generation, and understanding the science of food, the planting, the cultivating, and the harvesting. But then, what do you do with that food once you harvest it, outside of just consuming it? And so this void or this space that was there now can be filled with the store. And so now you add on that entrepreneurial and business mindset that you can, help in developing the next generation. And so now, obviously with the eatery, we can add the culinary aspect as well. And so, yeah, it was just amazing to see these young leaders given space and opportunity, just to have a whiteboard and just to mark out, okay, how can we be a part of the solution and not just talk about the problem? And so it's been pretty amazing to see at a young age these budding leaders take ownership of this problem.
So you brought Homeland in and started making partners in the community
Pretty
to
early.
make this happen? Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, so we kind of called Nikki and said, we have a crazy idea. Could this even ever happen? And just some incredible partnerships with the city that, we literally, had our little building as a retail grocer. It was zoned and licensed as a retail grocer, which is incredible. And when they said yes, it was like, oh gosh, okay, well, how do we begin to think about this? We originally were going to set it up, and it was going to have to be licensed and zoned as a farmer's market. So it was going to have to be a grocery store light, but everything would have to more or less, or there was some percentage of products that all have to be made in Oklahoma products to be technically within our. But Homeland, and I was actually the Thunder who kind of caught wind of this and were very much aware of the exacerbation of the food deserts that had happened that summer with the closure of the grocery store, and reached out and said we'd love to do our Thunder holiday Thanksgiving basket giveaway out of your store. What do you think? And we said, oh, seems ambitious. Let's do it. And Thunder and Homeland are partners of one another. So that's actually how the introduction to Homeland even came to be. And we, when Mark Jones came over with that, it just sort of,
So they did that out of your...
fell in love with the vision.
They did that out of your... So you've got a small store You've got a small store that you've had for a few years. And so that's where the Thunder baskets were
They were distributed out of that small store. And at that point, it was just all made in Oklahoma products. So when Homeland came in and we kind of said, hey, I've got, what? This is really what the community wants. What do you think? And we, of course, couldn't do the volume, the minimums that would take to be a contractor directly of like AWG or an Associated Wholesale Grocer or someone like that. But Homeland was very willing to think outside the box, even with that little market. So we started our partnership there, and we're in that space for a little over about a year and a half before transitioning to this larger market. So
I had conversations, and all of a sudden Homeland came on board because we couldn't do it by ourselves. It had to be a public partnership because we're in the community development, but we're not in the grocery business.
Yeah.
So
they had to operate it.
Yeah, we had no operational expertise of a grocery store. I mean, and that's an undertaking. I mean, we're 3 weeks in, and we can tell you that's an undertaking.
So you opened 3 weeks ago. How's it gone?
It's been phenomenal.
Yeah, the response has been really great.
Yeah, the response has been great. The turnout from the community has been great. I told somebody the other day, I think industry average, they said at our last meeting, is about 6 to 8% category sales of produce, and we're turning 24 to 28% category sales. So it tells you just that vacuum for fresh. And we heard so many folks say, we don't put that in that community because they won't buy it. And it's been such an honor to watch the community do exactly what they've been asking for, and then continue to patronize that, and it's just been an incredible thing to witness.
Your interns work at the grocery store now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so inside the grocery store, we have obviously the market that sells dry goods, but also we have what we call the Eastside Eatery, a cafe. So we do have interns that are on the market side and in the cafe as well. So, we think about how do we get to this point, and definitely want to celebrate Bob Ross and as much foundation for because you can raise development dollars, but operational is really where it really
so our millions going for operations for over 3 years.
So that's what I was going to highlight.
Said you really needed.
It's the total ticket on this thing, and to give you a sense too of why I think these things don't just spring up overnight. This is a 7,000 square foot store, so it is roughly the size of a Trader Joe's, and it was a $1.7 million lift just in equipment that's just the development cost of getting that store turnkey open with the equipment it needs to do well. It was a pipe dream that we'd have some operational support. I think every business knows those first 3 years are the most critical years. So when Sarah Roberts called me and we started meeting, it was just like, oh my gosh, this wasn't even.
So this
wasn't even something we were dreaming about yet, but it would be such a game changer.
And so you have a 3-year runway.
Yeah.
So which is great.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah.